YouTube, my name is Mesa Sean and welcome back to another Destiny 2 video. Alright folks, time for another news update. The This Week at Bungie for the 27th has hit. I will give you the meat and potatoes of it, so to speak, and we'll just burn right through this. We're going to have some major Sandbox changes coming soon. So without further ado, let's get into the video, guys. If you enjoy it, kindly hit that like button, subscribe, and also leave me a comment for the lovely YouTube algorithm. Alright, let's get into it. So the first part of the This Week at Bungie is really just talking about World's First, and they do a pretty cool interview with the team from World's First. You can read that for yourself in the description, but I really want to get into the Sandbox changes here from Kevin Yanes. So what are they doing? Well, Ice Baby, I'm gonna read a lot of this verbatim and then comment here and there, but I really want your opinions in the comment section. I know everyone is frustrated with Stasis in the Crucible, however, I personally love it in PvE. So he kicks it off with first, well, let's chat about Stasis, our 4th damage type in Destiny, and the newest to join the fold. We've heard a lot of feedback about Stasis since its launch alongside Beyond Light in Season 12, and we've been using that feedback to help shape the future of the damage type. It's clear the vision we had for crowd control in PvE is succeeding, and players are finding it both useful and fun. Yeah, 100% agree. I love it in PvE. We love how Stasis plays in PvE, and we want to preserve that experience, but we agree with many in the PvP community who say that Stasis is too dominant in the Crucible for too little effort or skill required. So how the heck are they going to balance the two separately? Well, we're going to find out. Over the last few weeks, we've been open with you that we're taking this feedback to heart and working hard to reel in this great new power. We adore the long legacy of Bungie PvP games and want the PvP Combat Sandbox to live up to that adoration. This means we want the Crucible to be fun for as many players as possible, while also serving up those moments of skillful execution and incredible plays. It's a tight rope to walk, and frankly, we overcorrected during development when considering whether Stasis would live up to Arc, Solar, and Void. Actually, for myself in PvP, when I do actually play PvP, I usually run Void Blink, Void Walker, Warlock. Stasis and crowd control are key components of the Destiny Combat Sandbox. They're not going anywhere, meaning it's up to us to ensure Stasis plays well across all activities, regardless of skill level. What you'll find detailed in this TWAB is a series of changes we believe will be more evenly position, will evenly more position Stasis alongside Void, Solar, and Arc subclasses as an equal portion rather than the dominant one, while retaining what is fun about the ability set. Now, as much as I love it, I mean, I still like in the raids, I'm going Well of Radiance, I'm using Tether, on my Titan, I'm using Thunder Crash, so it's not that I'm using the non-state, I am using the non-Stasis subclasses, but I do enjoy the Stasis subclass. Alright, so let's see what they're doing. Since Forsaken, we've been slowly creeping towards a Crucible where it feels like gunplay has taken a back seat to our sweet cosmic magical powers. You know, sometimes I feel like, and let me know in the comment section, we need a no super, no abilities PvP like playlist where it's just gun on gun gameplay. Anyway, we believe that this is the wrong place for the Crucible to be, and we want to shift the balance more towards weapons. To us, the Crucible plays best when weapons and abilities have complementary usage in any given encounter. When we set out to define what our vision looked like for the future of Guardian versus Guardian combat, it boiled down to a few key pillars. Weapons are the primary way for players to engage with combat. I think they need to tone down hand cannons. I don't know about you guys, on PC, hand cannons are a nightmare. Literally, that's all anyone uses. Non-super abilities accentuate or augment the combat, but should rarely solve an encounter by themselves. I agree with that one. Abilities have clear strengths, weaknesses, and counterplay. Build crafting is rewarding within the moment-to-moment combat loop of Destiny. Behind the scenes, we've been executing on these pillars by planning out a roadmap of patches that we believe will not only get Stasis to where it needs to be for PvE, but also sets us up to shift the PvP Combat Sandbox in a meaningful way towards more gunplay. Then we have the preface, don't make a promise. Our first patch in this roadmap was released in March, and it was developed separately alongside Season 14. Unfortunately, due to the pieces already moving at the time, some changes were made that buffed Stasis and were not consistent with our goals. We're working hard to ensure that when we release hotfix patches, we can realign all of those moving pieces to exist more cohesively. Please pardon our dust as we work to get fixes and new features out to you in a timely manner. Next, we have some details for next week's hotfix below, and you'll see that there are a lot of changes to go over here, and they're all focused on Stasis. This patch is something we've moved up from Season 15 to help smooth over some of the pain points players have been feeling. And I have a feeling that's because I think I've seen a lot on Twitter and some videos out there on Twitter, well, like YouTube videos tweeted out that some of the Crucible channels, I guess, have been like they're done with PvP. I don't know. I don't follow them because I just watch really PvE channels. It's important to note here that shifting our focus like this comes at a considerable cost to the team. So it's unlikely that mid-season patches of this scope will become a regular occurrence. Once this patch has shipped, we'll be diving back into Season 15, where we are planning to deliver another balance patch focused on updates to the light subclasses while continuing to iterate on Stasis. The goal here is to address some key pieces of feedback and make more of the light subclasses viable across the game. After Season 15, things become a little more nebulous because we are still early in development. What I can talk about are our areas of focus to help paint a picture of where we are headed. We'll be looking at ability regeneration rates and redesigning how the ability to energy economy works across the game. Our goal here is to keep the PvE experience largely similar to the state of the game today, and I hope they do that, okay? But reduce how often abilities are used in the Crucible. I don't know how the heck they're going to do this, but we're going to find out. After that, we'll be taking a long, hard look at Void, Solar, and Arc subclasses to re-examine each subclass path and how they fit into the combat sandbox. Okay, so now we have Eric Smith here, and he's going to go through what we're going to be getting here. So the combat gameplay team is currently working on changes to Stasis gameplay abilities aimed to improve the Stasis experience in the Crucible. We had originally planned to ship these changes in Season 15 alongside a larger subclass balance patch, but we've decided to move several of the Stasis gameplay changes to hotfix 3.2.0.3, which is planned to go live on Thursday, June 3rd. We're still hard at work on additional ability changes that will launch in Season 15 and 16. But we wanted to get these Stasis changes into players' hands sooner than later. Without further ado, here are the changes. Here we go, folks. Stasis Freeze. Reduced duration of all non-super freezes versus players to 1.35 seconds. Note, this freeze is too short to break out of. So breaking out is now only possible when frozen by a super. Also reducing special weapon, heavy weapon, and light ability bonus damage versus frozen players from 50% all the way down to 5%. So it's interesting that they're doing this, in PvP, but I guess it's not going to affect anything in PvP, but it's not going to affect anything in PvE. Okay, now moving on to Stasis Slow. No longer reduces weapon accuracy. Now increases weapon flinch when under fire. No longer suppresses class ability and air moves, meaning things like Icarus Dash. A known issue they have here is the Stormcaller's Ionic Blink is still suppressed when slowed. We plan to address this in a future release. Also, reduce movement speed penalty while slowed by -20%. The Whisper of Hedron's fragment no longer increases weapon damage after freezing. Alright, I hope it's still active in PvE. Now increases weapon stability, weapon aim assist, mobility, resilience, and recovery after freezing. Am I crazy, or is this the first time they're able to balance something where they're balancing it for PvP and it's not affecting PvE? I don't know. This sounds pretty good so far, guys. Whisper of Rhyme fragment no longer provides an overshield while you're in your super. The cold snap grenades. Ugh, everyone loves these things. Seeker no longer tracks targets after initial target acquisition. Increased arming duration before Seeker spawns from 0.3 seconds to 0.8 seconds. Reduce the detonation radius versus players from 3 meters to 1.5 meters. Now bounces off of walls and detonates on the ground. The Titan Behemoth is going under the knife first, and first off we have Shiver Strike. So reduce the flight speed and distance, reduced knockback versus players, removed slow detonation on player impact. For Cryoclasm, now requires the Titan to sprint for at least 1.25 seconds before activation when not in Super, and they removed cooldown. Howl of the Storm, reduced angle of initial freezing / damage cone, reduced the crystal creation freezing radius, slowed down sequence of crystal formation to allow victims more opportunity to escape, and now spawns a small crystal on walls if performed into walls. Next up, Glacial Quake. Reduced heavy slam vertical freeze range versus players, and reduced the damage resistance from 50% to 47%. Now on to the Hunter Revenant. So, Withering Blade. Reduced slow duration versus players from 2.5 seconds to 1.5 seconds. Reduced Whisper of Durance slow duration extension versus players from 2 seconds down to 0.5 seconds. Reduce damage versus players from 65 to 45 after one bounce, reduced further to 30. Reduce projectile speed by 10%, alright, so they're slowing it down. Reduced tracking after bouncing off a wall. Next up, we've got Winter's Shroud. Reduced slow duration versus players from 2.5 seconds to 1.5 seconds. And they're also reduced Whisper of Durance slow duration extension versus players from 2 seconds to 0.5 seconds. For Touch of Winter, Cold Snap Seeker no longer has increased movement speed or travel distance. Cold Snap Seeker, God, I can't say that. Cold Snap Seeker now spawns a small stasis crystal on detonation. Next up is the Warlock Shadebinder. This applies to me because I'm a Warlock main, but I don't use stasis in the Crucible. I'm always going Blink Warlock, like I said. So for Penumbral Blast, reduced tracking and proximity detonation size and tracking versus players, reduce freeze radius versus players when impacting the environment from 2.7 meters to 1.5 meters. The Ice Flare Bolts. Seeker now only chains once when spawned from a player shatter. And Winter's Wrath, freezing projectile tracking strength now ramps down to 0 after 2 seconds of flight. And they finish off this section here with, we hope these changes have a positive impact on your Crucible experience. While the gameplay team is very busy working on future releases, Crucible and the PvP community are extremely important to us, and we'll continue to monitor gameplay data and community feedback regarding Stasis and Stasis subclass abilities in general. We'll continue to update Stasis until its win rates and usage rates are in line with the light subclasses. Expect more updates in the future. So this week we had our first weekly Pinnacle mission expunged, but there was no reward at the end here. So they wanted to clarify a few things about that. So let me read you what Mike Profeta here has to say. With the removal of seasonal armor in the Season Pass reward track, we still wanted to provide players with a way to earn a full set of high-stat seasonal armor. With the seasonal storyline quests requiring completion of Expunge each week once introduced, that felt like a great source for those armor rewards. For the first 4 weeks of the new Expunge missions, players should expect to earn a piece of high-stat seasonal armor in addition to some decrypted data on their first time through each mission. Once players have earned their high-stat armor set by completing the first 4 missions, remaining weekly Expunge missions upon first completion will reward seasonal weapon with an additional perk choice in the final column instead of an armor piece. Alright, that last part right there, having an additional perk slot, that I am definitely looking forward to. So starting on June 15th, a new Pinnacle Activity Challenge will roll out connected to Expunge missions, providing an additional Pinnacle reward source each week for the remainder of the season. This coincides with an additional layer of replayability being introduced to Expunge missions, along with unveiling the final 3 Splicer Gauntlet upgrades, which will provide additional rewards and a source of high stat / double perk seasonal gear from Expunge each week for as long as the activity is available to players. In terms of hot fixes, they're also going to fix the empty tank. Remember that Lost Sector was saying you would get exotic legs and then it would drop helmets. The Conturier, am I pronouncing that right? Probably not. Gauntlets will no longer obstruct a player's view when using bows and will appear again as intended. The Archon's Thunder Machine Gun and Rise Walker Shotgun can now be acquired from Lord Saladin, Iron Engrams, bounties, or post-match Iron Banner rewards. A full list of patch notes are going to be available next week. So that is going to do it for the video, guys. Just wanted to burn through the This Week at Bungie every Thursday. Let me know what you guys think, and if you prefer this method, where I'm not going to put gameplay over it, because I'm literally reading this verbatim, but I want to bring you up to speed really quickly, and maybe throw in some opinions and feedback as I read through them. So, you know the drill. Leave me a hashtag made it to the end if you did make it to the end, and do me a favor. Drop a like in this video, only if you see fit. Follow me on Twitter at Mesa Sean. Check out my stream. Usually you know it's on YouTube, and that's it. I am out of here like Vladimir.